Well, today is day 2 of the Testimony and Counterfeiting workshop. And my name is Caroline Francis. I'm from currently the RMIT University. I'm the Program Manager of Industrial Design. And my background is in the fast-moving consumer goods. And my PhD was looking at strengthening consumer trust and protecting premium brand Australia, and looking at anti-counterfeiting strategies that are design-led. So today, of day 1, just to recap, day 1 was about understanding the problem of counterfeiting throughout the world and how it's impacting Australia and our exporting trade. And then also understanding not only the problem, but understanding the perpetrators, the fraudsters, as we call them, and how they have limited capabilities, and we call them counterfeiting capabilities. Understanding those capabilities is really important so that we can counteract them. So we also understood all the different types of strategies that have been summed up into a database that was actually collected through the research of the Industry Transformation Research Hub that was led at the University of Melbourne. And that information we collected, we did a whole review of strategies, collected that information and assimilated all that together into different categories, understanding what is easy to do, what is cost effective for businesses, but then also more advanced technologies and more investment technologies that you can apply when you grow as a business. So we spent a bit of time yesterday understanding that framework and the scope of all that research. Today, we're going to be looking a little bit about expanding on that, on a bit of e-commerce and just what you can do in that space and learning from others, and also leveraging what we've learned from yesterday. We're going to also go into a little bit of a an interactive session where you can enter in some responses on a platform called Mentimeter. But then I will also go back into our other platform, which is called Miro, and Miro will walk you through that in a moment. But basically, I'll show you how to use that interactive platform where you can use the summarized strategies. They're now summarized into trump cards, and you can use those to formulate your hand against counterfeiting. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to have a little look today at some other examples that will actually help you just hit home what you can do for yourself. So we did talk about non-deceptive and deceptive counterfeiting, and I just want to recap that. Non-deceptive are things that you would imagine like shoes, jeans, watches, things that probably some of us might have actually purchased on purpose. We knew that they were counterfeit, we knew they were fake, but we were willing to do it because they were a nice bag, and we didn't want to pay that premium price for it. It didn't affect really us, and so we went ahead and did that, and that's non-deceptive counterfeiting. However, deceptive counterfeiting is the one that we should be really worried about for the food industry, because no one wants to buy food or medicine or anything that we're going to be passing on either for ourselves or for our children or for our animals, counterfeit goods that will actually harm health. And for the fast-moving consumer goods, this is the area where even consumers will partner with you. So they are part of the solution, and that's really important to remember. Counterfeiters are fighting against being discovered, and you need to build trust with your consumers to overcome deceptive counterfeiting. So just remember that premium products are targeted, but counterfeiting affects every single type of size of business and the level of premium, whether it's all the way from on the spectrum from everyday products all the way through to premium products. However, you can move counterfeiters along that spectrum, and with just simple little tactics, which we've talked about yesterday, which is recorded, and I do welcome you to watch if you weren't there. So just to learn a little bit from what others are doing. So Egmont Honey I've used as a case study. And this is just some screenshots from their website, which is a lovely website. I do encourage you to look at it. It's a New Zealand company. But what they have done is they've developed a sense of a story, which is provenance. They show where they're actually located, the premium location. Obviously, it's clean and green, very much Australia, similar to Australia. But they also link it with, the flowers the bees go to. They talk about the process of harvesting their honey and how they take care of their livestock. They also showcase that the access to the location of their beehives is only accessible via a helicopter. Now, it's not something we need to all do, but this is just telling a bit of a story. It helps link things. And when you link these things again onto your packaging, you link it to the not only the packaging, but it's telling a whole story. This is really important because once you put this all together, it creates a big story that people can look to and make sure you are a real company. So that's really just building trust. It's not really protecting you against counterfeiters yet, but at this level, you need to make sure you have that type of level of story built into your websites. Other things are certifications of a certificate. Can't say the word. Certificates of being protected by other companies, like looking at your honey and verifying that you are a real company, that you have actually gone through quality processes. That's really important to put together. Now, with this particular certificate, I will critique it a little bit. As you can imagine, bank checks and all those things in the past, they used to have, those guilloche patterns around the edge that make it really difficult to copy. They would have void panographs that would appear, and these are the strategies we talked about yesterday. This particular certificate looks lovely. It's got a couple of little faded hexagons, but that is super easy to copy. So do have a little look at old bank checks, bank notes, other things that people have actually used techniques to make it difficult so that you can't just photocopy or grab. Those kind of things are really important, because if you don't put the effort in making sure your certificates have the correct type of anti-counterfeiting strategies applied, then those type of certificates can easily be copied. And obviously this could be from the particular association that it's been provided to. You could even talk to your associations and make sure that they're aware that they need to provide certificates that are hard to copy. Looking back on the packaging, now just quickly having a look at, for instance, the custom bottle. Right now, Egmont has a standard bottle. I would say that's a bad no-no. Try and find a custom bottle that is either manufactured something in Australia, which you can produce, or something that's not just purchased off the shelf. I know it's cheaper to buy off the shelf, but we're talking about premium. If you're talking about a cheaper SKU that is actually if you're trying to produce a lot of them and you're not looking for smaller scale productions and you're looking for larger scale productions, maybe a custom bottle is not suitable for you. But if you're looking for the premium market where you'll be selling at a very high price point, perhaps that's something you can consider. Holographic seals, tamper evident seals, custom fonts and graphics that you've designed in-house, metallic graphics or complex backgrounds. Make sure you use patterns in your background, patterns that are hard to copy, guilloche patterns, and also things that create a Moira effect when you try and scan it. We talked about that yesterday. Non-continuing batch numbers, QR codes and NFC chips, and secondary packaging. You could consider like a structural box that it goes inside as well. So just having a look at other techniques that we haven't talked about, and a lot of people buy honey for gifting. And what's a really simple way of anti-counterfeiting is bundling. And why would that do anything? Well, consumers can order a number of items and then it gets packed in Australia and sent off, and it's a custom package. Sometimes you can have created a number of packages, but they're only limited edition. So they're only a certain amount of time that you offer that package. But if you bundle different options together, that's also another level of layering, because counterfeiters can't go, oh, I don't have all those products, I was only going to counterfeit one. I don't have all of those products counterfeited, so now I'm just going to go to another company that is only selling one item at a time. So bundling is a really excellent way of creating complexity, but also delighting the customer. Another way that I've come across, which is really fun, and I don't know it's for everyone, but some of the Daigous, they are people that have decided to take things into their own hands, buy product in Australia and send it over to China, but they are also doing it for other countries as well. But what they do is they sometimes, to make sure that the person that receives the box of goods knows that it's authentic, they purchase an Australian newspaper and they put that into the box. So let's say you were, sorry, just going back here, if you were going to bundle a whole lot of products and you were going to sell premium products together in a box, you may even think about perhaps throwing in a newspaper. Why would you do that? Well, this is just another level of complexity. Newspapers are printed daily, sometimes weekly, but it's enough information that it retires after a certain amount of time. And if it goes into the box, it has the date on it, it has information that's changed. You don't have to develop it. It's actually not too expensive. You can build that into your cost. And then it goes overseas. And then that, you know, that the customers know that that particular package comes with the newspaper as well. And counterfeiters can't produce all that information. I know it's excessive. It's just another idea. So perhaps it might not be working for you, but it's also another thing to think about. Just noting also counterfeiting on e-commerce. So just to be mindful of layering images as well, because if you can imagine, if I'm going to try and copy your image from your website and you've got lots of layers, if you change those images and I try and screen grab that, that's fine, I can do that, but it's hard for me to isolate your product away from all those other products. So if you partner with other companies, like for instance, if you're selling on a platform, e-commerce platform through another country, such as in China, they have Tmall. When you partner with other companies, they will sell alongside you. So you'll be displayed amongst these collection of images. And this type of layering of images is really hard, because then you have to actually cut images out. Now, this one isn't so bad because the images are really crisp, but let me show you some other examples that get a little bit more complicated. It's not going to the next slide, just one second. There you go. So I know that this is quite complex and you'd need a graphic designer for such things, but for your website, just be mindful of not doing something on the left here. See, if you're going to put your product on your website, don't make it so I can just easily copy that image and paste it somewhere else. If you create images with layers, lots of graphics behind it, even your logo should have some sort of overlay, like if a product could slightly cover your logo, so people have to cut it out and replace it. It makes complexities that a lot of counterfeiters start to go, oh, it's just too hard, I'm going to find another company to counterfeit. Make things difficult. Try and think like a counterfeiter. Could I copy that? Could I create that easily? If not, you're doing well. So over here, an example of Mato Bay on the left, that is from Dan Murphy's, and that type of image I could easily copy, put it on another website, pretend to be Dan Murphy's, it's easy. The one on the right, for me, to change a country, because a lot of the counterfeiters try to change countries and sell it in another country. If you put English on your website and other other languages also. When I'm trying to take that and put it into another country, I have to try and remove all of that text and everything. So just letting you know, like, these are not fail safes. It's all about deterring in these levels and trying to create complexities. Even the grapes in front of the product means that I would have to go and recreate the image of the bottle down the bottom to try and smooth that out. It's just deterring counterfeiters. It's things to be mindful of: layering, complexities in images, custom fonts, lots of languages perhaps create that complexity. All right, I just also want to pause here, and today's not all about lots of information. And what I'd like to do is take you to a couple of sites and show you some sites that will be very relevant for you moving forward. So I will stop sharing there. Just having a quick look at the Reserve Bank of Australia, which is really fantastic site. And I know it's about currency and you're thinking, I'm not designing currency, but there's so many learnings that you can build into your websites going forward. So if you have a little look at this particular thing here, I'll zoom in if I can a little. I'm going to play them. Please let me know if you can't hear the noise.
Australian banknotes are among the safest in the world. And to keep them that way, the Reserve Bank is introducing a new series of banknotes. Now in circulation is the new $5 banknote. You'll see many innovative security features, including a distinctive top-to-bottom window. Tilt the banknote and you'll see an Eastern Spinebill move its wings. Inside the Federation Pavilion at the bottom of the window is a number 5 that changes direction. Turn the banknote over and in the top corner you'll see a prominent patch that changes colour in a rolling effect. And there's a tactile feature to assist the vision impaired community. Importantly, all existing banknotes can continue to be used. The Reserve Bank is making our banknotes clearly more secure. See more at banknotes.rba.gov.au. Banknotes can continue to...
There you go. Now, the reason why I want to point that out is obviously you think, well, banknotes, we're not going to put banknotes on our honey, but actually the learnings from all of that, there's lots of different types of techniques you can adopt. So here they have a playful website. You can actually select things and it shows what counterfeiting strategies and anti-counterfeiting strategies they've built into their label. So you can click on things and it steps people through. Now, you can learn from this. You can create certain little features that consumers can see on your labels. You can then animate it on your website and show people what they can look for. It doesn't have to be this level of sophistication, but you could definitely go to whatever suits your business needs. So obviously you can walk through all the different things that they have available. They have lots of different little patterns that are hard to copy, that bend and don't repeat. They have holograms and they've got references to images from Australia that is specific, and they tell a story about that as well. They have also tactile pieces in the banknotes. They say it's for assistive technology, but it also is a form of counterfeiting, meaning that they've put beads or things that create a bump in their label. Perhaps that's something you can also build in into your laminates. And there's many different suppliers that can offer that in the food industry as well. They have sketches, obviously, with this hatching. It's normally known for, normally produced in the past by etching, and it's a fine hatching technique that is really hard. If you go to photocopy that, many of the lines will blur. So even high resolution photocopying won't be able to produce the same quality. So it's these type of little things. You can create those graphics in the background. It doesn't mean that you have to draw a face at all. You can just think creatively about what they're doing. Again, all of these type of techniques that are available. And then also fine text that's available, really small, that you can read with a microscope. This is just things, because every currency note, Australia produced the first polymer note, and it was laminated with all the different types of technologies built in, and it has that see-through window, which is a real innovation piece, that piece there. But other countries picked up on it and went, fantastic, and they have actually learnt from Australia and produced their own. Now, what's so amazing about money is money gets produced and then it's sent out. We don't have a little NFC chip on them. We don't have a QR code on them. They are not tracked. The only way they are tracked is when they return to the bank or return to an institution that can actually register their code. But apart from that, they're out and about, and they have to build trust with people. If people don't think that money is real, or if it's fake, we're going to quickly lose trust in that whole currency system. It's the same model as food. If we send out our products out, if we can't track and trace them all the time, and sometimes we can still use NFC chips and other things where we can engage with consumers. But there's so many learnings you can take just from the design strategies and the simple applications of holograms, and also fine prints and graphics. Obviously, you can work towards those high-end technologies later on as you expand in your business ventures. What's also really interesting about the website is that they do talk about counterfeit detection, obviously rightly so for currency, but you can also do that too. And they also talk about how to report about counterfeits and what to look for. So let's have a little look at, for instance, companies that are doing that. So Brightland, they don't have a very big website, but they do have a couple of blogs that they talk about how to spot fake oil, but they also sell olive oils, vinegar, honey, sets and capsules, and other things. But they also have an article about how to spot fake oil, and they go through it and give some examples of what things to look for. This is something you could learn from, and it doesn't mean that you have to do it this way. Everyone has their own way of doing things, but I do highly recommend that you work with consumers. Do not try and pretend that counterfeiting is not there. It's not a bad thing to acknowledge it's out there. And as a business, if you build that into your website, that will be fantastic for you, showing that you are keeping consumers' best interest close to your business and making sure you're taking care of them. They want to work with you. Also, there are associations such as the International Anti-Counterfeiting Coalition. They also have partnerships with big companies like Alibaba and other types of supply chains to other countries. And these guys have a lot of information, more webinars, conferences, training, and so forth. Do check them out and have a look. Doesn't mean you have to be a member to access this information, but you could if you wished. There's also case studies on this site here, the Australian government, Austrade, and they have information about anti-counterfeiting technology to protect against Australian food, against counterfeiting of Australian food products. And yesterday I talked about Reed Fruits Cherries, that company that was being counterfeited overseas. What's really interesting is I just wanted to expand on that. Here you can see they're actually leveraging the fact that they were an Australian company producing really high quality premium cherries in Tasmania. They were being counterfeited overseas in China, and they didn't know. They weren't even exporting to China, and they discovered that, and now actually the counterfeiters. And this is something just to be mindful of. It's not saying that you want to do this all the time, but it's something you need to think about. But they actually leveraged the fact that the counterfeiters built their brand over there for them. So then they saw the opportunity to actually, they obviously dealt with the counterfeiting problem, shut them down, and they talked to them and shut them down for a while. Obviously, counterfeiters might shut down for a while and pop back up. So that's another story. But it also showed Reed Cherries that there was a real opportunity for them to export. And now they're actually investing in a lot of different types of digital fingerprint technology that's available here. And you can read about these case studies. And they are now doing very well exporting overseas their cherries. So sometimes counterfeiting, there's some little glimmer of good hope that can come about it. And there's different ways of thinking, reframing the problem, but I would highly recommend you still put into place these types of strategies that I'm recommending. Sorry, I didn't mean to be flipping through. I did have one more thing I wanted to show you. Oh, it's back here, sorry. Oh, yes, sorry, here we go. All right, the AIPIA, which is the Australian, where is it? The Australian Active Intelligent Packaging Institute Association. It's also known as the Smart Packaging Association. They have a whole collection of different types of anti-counterfeiting technologies and suppliers. So you can look through them, and if you register with them, they send you regular information about that, which is really fantastic as well. And I do highly recommend you just joining up with them, learning a bit about their projects. And they do a review of lots of different types of information and suppliers and technologies that are available in Australia. So finally, let's get to a little bit more of our interactive side of things. Is there any questions so far while I set this up? Just, is there any questions so far? I'll just keep setting up while if you want to jump in, you can. All right. Hopefully you can see that in front of you. So what you can do now is on your phone, you can go to Google or whatever search engine you have on your phone and search menti.com. Just search in the search bar, menti.com, menti.com. And then when you get to that site, you'll be presented to enter a code. Please enter the code 31070864. 31070864. Alternatively, you can scan the QR code, and once you're in, you can heart or like that slide so we know how many people are in. So feel free to jump in and heart it. You can heart multiple times too. It's actually quite satisfying. It's very, very fun. So I'll actually join you. Let's give you a bit more time to join in. E1, excellent. All right, lovely. Okay, so we've got a few people in there, which is great. Now, I'm going to be presenting you with a few questions, and you're welcome to participate or not. It's all anonymous, and hopefully, oh, hang on, did I just skip a page? Sorry. There you go. So now you're presented with a map, and it's a very small map, so I do apologize, but if you can just, this is all anonymous. I have no idea actually who's in here. I don't collect any data on you. This is just all live and active, so just move your little dot to where you're located, and this is more just for fun, and it's just to help people kind of have a go at using this system. So it's very interesting. We're all in Australia, which is lovely to see. And I'm actually down in Melbourne. So I'm not in Tasmania. You do have to keep moving it around. until you. It is tricky. I'm in Pacific. All right. I might be slightly off towards New Zealand. There I am. I was trying to get Melbourne, but you get what I'm trying to say. Well, then you guys did quite well. So we've got people from Queensland, South Australia, and Western Australia, and Melbourne, Victoria, obviously. So that's really good. Thank you guys for doing that. That's very fun. All right. So who are you? And hopefully I've kind of listed most people that will be here, but if it's other, then you're welcome to turn on your mics and say what you are. But yeah, please do feel to select in what you are. And you might be multiple of these, which I didn't actually, I just thought about that. But if you can nominate, you know, roughly what you are, and if you're not listed, I do apologize. This is a little bit just, you know, a bit of fun, just to understand who we've got in our cohort. So chuck it in, and if you're an other, you're welcome to, in the chat function, perhaps say what you are instead. Maybe that could be helpful as well. Excellent. Great. Have we got any other submissions? So we've got welcome to everyone. It's fantastic. And I'm good to see we've got the independents and startups also represented. That's great. And a few researchers. All right. If you are a business, what roughly size are you? And, you know, if you're a researcher and you run a business, that's fine too. You don't have to be a honey business. Or perhaps you could even say, if you are from a research institution, you could say perhaps what size research institution. And if you by chance got kicked out of Menti, which I just did, you can just enter the code at the top of the screen again and jump back in. Fantastic. And as you can see, I'm not a multinational enterprise, but I've represented RMIT University, which is has other connections in Vietnam and other places. So that's why I represent that one. But well done. Thank you. Okay, so what is counterfeiting to you? Now, I'd like you to kind of just think of the word counterfeiting, and it's a big mouthful. What other words you can use? Not just one word, it could be like 2 or 3 words, 5 words if you must, but try and keep it short sentences if it's a sentence at all. And just write in anything at all. What do you think is counterfeiting? Fantastic. Yep. Yep. Really great. And as they keep getting added, so you can see it's not just you know, a problem overseas that is we're competing against. I love the piece that someone just said, dishonesty. It's great. Inferior, often. It's an imitation. It's fraudulent, copying. Absolutely. It's stealing. It's stealing. Absolutely. It's stealing your IP. And it's also a loss of income. And that's probably one of the biggest ones there, which I don't know who put that in, but thank you for putting that in. And reputation damage. I'm glad that this is kind of being recognized, because it's a loss of income. If you don't do anything, you're going to lose income, you're going to lose customers, you're going to lose reputation. It's a no-win situation. So you must do something about counterfeiting. So thank you for participating in that. Who can be part of the counterfeiting syndicate? I hope I spelled syndicate correctly. Who can be part of the counterfeiting syndicate? And, you know, we can say fraudsters, but who else can be? Yep. Excellent. And it's not, this workshop is not trying to make you completely become skeptical of everybody. But you do need to make sure that your supply chain is with reputable people that you trust, and you need to identify where you're losing control of your supply chain, where you lean too much on others, where there's no visibility of what's happening with your stock and product. So just be mindful, just because you have a supply chain, there is, you're as strong as the weakest link, they say. So just note that if you don't do anything about counterfeiting, if you don't apply strategies to your packaging, you will be susceptible to counterfeiting. And look at this, retailers. Retailers can be part of the problem. Consumers can obviously be part of the problem. And customers, retail, police can be part of the problem. So just be noting that designers as well, anyone that knows design. So just be mindful that it's just, you need to keep that hat on. Have I got a real good relationship with people? If I'm going to trust people, I need to make sure that they have good quality processes in place, that I have done my due diligence of putting in strategies that makes my labeling and my packaging and my primary, secondary, tertiary packaging, even my shipping packaging and the straps that go around the outside, is that got holographic tape that when someone tries to open it, you can see that it's been opened. You know, those kind of things. Layers. Think about every layer and think about where it could be, where someone can take stuff or whether people can actually copy things. Think about your whole supply chain, because if you don't put those complexities in, people will find opportunities to take advantage. All right, do you have an anti-counterfeiting plan in place? You know, that's a convoluted question because maybe not everyone here is a business. But just have a go. Do you have an anti-counterfeiting plan in place? Yes, absolutely. I've got it all organized. Not yet, or I'm working on it. Maybe we can add that. Not yet, but I'm working on it. Or it's just not relevant to me, and that's okay too. Maybe you're a researcher and you're not developing products at this stage, or you're not going to be. You're developing research. But do you have an anti-counterfeiting plan in place? That's great that someone does have one. That's great. And remember, I do not know who these results are from. Excellent. So I'm going to keep moving on. Do you feel you have gained a greater understanding of food fraud risks through this workshop? Obviously, day one was a lot of information, and today is a little bit more interactive. That's good to know. That's nice. Good, excellent. And just to be mindful of, there is another section of this which we'll move on to, and I'll walk you through an example, but then I will share links after this workshop with you that you can continue on and still work on these type of platforms later on down the track. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Do you feel you understand more about the deterrent and detective strategies available? Is that something that you feel like you've got a little bit more of an understanding? It doesn't mean you know about every single one, but if you've gained some understanding of it and you still got a lot to learn, which is fine, you've hopefully have resources that you can go see. So if you feel like you haven't learned, all the things that have been presented, you've understood already previously, then you can be a no too. Excellent. Great. All right. And on a scale from less likely to high likely, what we might do is leave this. We'll come back to this, so don't respond to this question yet. What I'm going to do is show you the Miro board and the trump cards. So I'm just going to jump to this one. Yes, good. All right. So from day one, I walked through all the different types of strategies, whether they are design based or technology based. And that's really the two categories that I group them under. And so we went through quite a few, and I've summarized them into little cards, as you will. And I have these. So these are the trump cards. They're physical hard little cards. And they basically have a QR code that help you understand a bit more about each one. But they are a physical asset that you can then use to actually do this activity. So they are available as well. This activity is a Miro board. The platform is called Miro. I have published this Miro board on their other platform called Miroverse, or I'll send you all this information in a package afterwards, like a leave behind package for you. And this Miro board shows you the 4 steps you need to do using the trump cards to develop an anti-counterfeiting business plan. So what we have is first, and obviously I've zoomed right out, but I'll zoom in a moment, but just there's 4 steps. So step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. This is an example one that I'll show you. And then also these are the duplicates, but these are set up for you. And you can have a go after this workshop when the link has been sent to you directly. The first step is to sort your trump cards. So you go through the collection of cards, if you can imagine. If you can imagine having all your trump cards in front of you, like almost like a game. You've got all your cards that you can pick out of, and you work out which ones you want to keep. What things are relevant for your business. And sometimes you might need to do this for one type of product line that you have, like an everyday product line, so that you're producing large volumes of honey and you're producing products like for a cheaper market base. And then you might need to do it again for your premium line. So if you have one line that's like a $50 honey bottle that you're selling, and compared to another one which is a premium one, which is, let's say, $200, and it's a very premium honey product, and you're going to invest in a lot more anti-counterfeiting for that one, then you'll have to probably do this twice for those. So you want to go through and understand which strategies are relevant for your company, and so that you can discard the things that are not relevant for you. Once you've found the ones you like, we'll move them down to here, and you bundle your trump cards together. So you understand which ones actually fight against counterfeiters' capabilities, and I'll zoom into that in a moment. Then we have to take those bundles down to here, and we work out, is it actually strong trust and strong security? You need to measure it against that. And then once you're happy with that, you feel like you've got something that's a bit of a success story for your consumers, for your business, for your security, we move that down again, and you work out what you can do today and tomorrow. So let's have a look at the first one. Now, just before we do, I'm just going to zoom in here. As you can see, it's kind of like PowerPoint. You zoom in and out. You can zoom in and out with your mouse. So here's your scroll in and out for your mouse. You select the left mouse button to select things. So if I want to select the edge of this, I can select things. And if I want to move it once it's selected, sorry, I can move it around just like PowerPoint. And if I want to move around, I just use my right mouse button. When I click my right mouse button, right mouse button, it'll turn into a little hand and I'll move. It's as simple as that. If you want to duplicate things, you can either copy and paste. So you select it and then go Control-C, Control-V if you're happy with using that. Or you can double click the item and get an and then you get a little button like this that appears, and you can click on that and it'll duplicate. Now I'll show you an example of duplication. I do hope that I'm not making anyone feel ill moving in and out. Okay, so this is the first map. It's the EMDV adoption map. It stands for easy, medium, difficult, or very difficult. It's measured on less relevant and more relevant to your business. And previously, yesterday, we dragged across a few items into different categories. So here's your trump cards, which you can pick up and move, okay? Or you can copy them. So you can double click, and you can see the little mouse that comes up, and you can duplicate it. Or I can Control C, Control V. All right, so if I zoom in, so here, as you can see, here's this trump card. And the trump card has a thumbnail of the image. It has an indicator, a reference indicator from it starts from A to Z and has a number next to it. So it starts again. As we expand on these, as more technologies are emerging and become commercially available, I will keep adding to these, as you can see on our website. So you can always get more, and I'll add more to these boards as well. The void pantograph technology, it's just hidden text in your pattern that when people scan, it appears. It is through dots, really close dots. You can't see it really on this screen, but if you zoomed right in, there'll be little tiny dots. And if you scan it, those dots eventually merge. And high-res scanning can't really pick it up either if you do it very well. And obviously there's techniques of doing that, but it's low cost, and it deters copier and re-engineer. So if I just move back out again, all of these, so there's all of these that are available to us, and you can go through these and put these where you think are relevant. So for instance, I'm going to walk through and give you a case study of first something that is for a $50 honey jar. I would assume that maybe small little graphic features. I wouldn't want to be spending too much money on high technologies like NFC chips or things like that. So I'd be looking at small little things I can add to my graphics. So perhaps I would maybe use signatures, batch numbers, textures and embossing. I would try to use void pantograph. I would even look at perhaps, let's have a look over here. I would probably add in perhaps a QR code. Let's have a little look at where the QR code is gone. There's QR codes here. Oh, this one here, I'd put that one there. And hopefully you guys are not feeling too ill watching me do this. But as you can see, the QR code, you can have barcodes and QR codes, and you can put an image around the outside as long as there's a certain amount of white around the edging so that the QR code can pick up those borders. Make sure you test it. Make sure you don't just add graphics and don't test it. Make sure you test it and it still works. But it's these three anchors that are really important that needs to be visible by the QR app or software. And so you can add these extra graphics that make complexities that people would have to recreate to produce your QR code. It's just layer by layer, little complexities by little complexities. It doesn't mean every single one is perfect, but together they create security and deter counterfeiters. So again, I would probably still look at a QR code for even a simple $50 honey jar. And then I would look at probably even at this level, I would still do some structural packaging that can go on the outside of like a box as such, if you can imagine. So perhaps if you can imagine, so here, we take this one across. It's not as easy. Sorry, I just lost it. So the void pantograph is not easy. I'd move that a bit further out. These are probably easy to apply. I'd move these out, even though they're great. And just starting with those. So this here, I would have a box that my honey jar would go inside. You're exporting, so you're not just selling to the Australian market. So we're talking about you're still going to claim a premium for an exported product. So there is, even though it's probably a cheaper product that you range that you're looking at, I still would highly recommend some sort of box that would go on the outside, and you can apply stickers, tamper evidence stickers on the outside of that. Perhaps you could invest in holographic laminates as well. But yeah, so there's those type of things as well. So and finally, something that is later on, I would also add in patterns into my graphics. This is a no-brainer. It's just, I mean, I know that it may not be for today's stuff, but you might have packaging designs that you can't really change at the moment. You might want to change it later, but you want to consider patterns that are non-repeating and having those built into your designs moving forward. However you do that is up to you. It doesn't have to be a pattern as such. It just has to be creating that complexity in the background. It can be very subtle too. It could be acting as almost like a watermark. You know, for instance, if we print our labels with white ink, that's also another one I would also bring across. So white inks or watermarks, white inks are reflective, but it's very hard to see on your label if you have a white background. But it just creates those little watermarks, those inks that actually do reflect, and it comes up with, you know, different shapes and colors as it's been scanned. So if it's really subtle, you can't quite make it out. It's hard for you to do that. And if it's visible enough, it can actually operate well with photo recognition technology and act as a QR code. But that is something I would probably suggest for more a premium range. So for that level, just for now, just for purposes at the moment, I've collected things that are relevant for us, that is for a low cost honey product range. And then I would go, okay, I can take these and I'd leave a copy of them. So I'd copy and paste. And I would encourage you all to have a go, that make sure these things are relevant for your company. So I'm not suggesting this is for you. This is just out of my knowledge of the honey industry. I could be completely not picking what is suitable for your business. So let's say we've got this one here. All right, let's have a look at it. Let's zoom in. I hope everyone's not going, oh, it does get feeling a bit funny. So this card here is copier and re-engineer. So I'll zoom out. So here's the counterfeiter's capabilities: extend, reuse, copier, re-engineer, corruption, and ripoffs. And if you want to understand that in depth, please do watch the video from day one. So this one here is available. So I'll just zoom up so you can see. It counteracts reuse, I think. No, sorry, not reuse. Copier and re-engineer. So we know that it's knocked out those two. This one here is the same, does the same purposes. It doesn't knock it out, it deters it. And that's what we want to achieve, a high level of deterrence so that the crime act does not occur. Again, this one is the same. So what you've got to know is sometimes you might start picking things that are always doing the same. And it's okay to have multiples of the same because it strengthens that area. These are the two strong areas where counterfeiters do work a lot. This is the majority of counterfeiters in this area, but you do need to counteract corruption and ripoffs. So here's a reuse one. Here's a reuse, and here is this one over here. We do need one over here still. So what we need to do is corruption. We need to look for something that might actually have corruption. So there's a QR code or an app, a validation app. Things like this one might be good for a low-cost solution. it may not be suitable for today. You might not be able to do let's have a little look at that one. So that's destructive packaging. Again, remembering that remembering destructive packaging is really powerful because it makes it hard for people to reuse the packaging, or once it's been opened, people can't buy back the packaging again. So again, this one here can act as destructive packaging. If you had a box on the outside of your jar, and this one has branded holographic stickers, but I'm just looking for one that is more of a box of some sort that you could use. So being mindful that this one can also act as that type of level. And then once you've gone through these, you're going, okay, I only want one. I need to have one that counteracts all of these. So I'd look at these, perhaps I'd have that one. Patterns. And I'd copy those across and move them down. And I'd put them down into this little bar. And I'd start to bundle those together. And this takes time. You need to do this as a business with your stakeholders in your business. Sorry, I just need to collect them again. Keep a copy of your bundles here as well. So I'll move that there. And again, move them down, keep moving down, and keep copies at the top so you see where you're working is gone. And now what we want to do is, we'll just delete these ones for the moment. So having a look at this one here, I need to understand, is this one going to be adding much value to consumers? It is semi-covert, so it's not going to add a lot of visibility for consumers. They may see it, and if you advertise it on the website for consumers to look for, then it can move into more, sorry, just to clarify, this area here is about your security. Okay, this one here is about your consumers' trust and their interaction with it. So do they actually see that there's value in it? Do they trust it? Do they get to see a website that points them to it? Or is it easily visible? Is it intuitive to use? Whereas this one's security, is it actually technologically more advanced? Is it sophisticated in that space? Doesn't mean it has to be, like even patterns. So we were looking at patterns before, if I zoom in a bit there. The pattern one, it's quite attractive to consumers, so it's high on trust. They really do enjoy that, especially if you use security patterns. It's recognizable by currencies, and people know that from banks, they know it from casinos, they know it from concert tickets, those kind of things. They see it and they go, oh, that's security patterns. You know, people start to see the pattern and they go, oh, that guilloche pattern that's on the outside border of a certificate. Well, I recognize that type of pattern and it's familiar to them. I know you don't want to make your label look like a banknote, but you can still draw little elements that actually come across, and you can dress things up, hide them slightly, make them suitable for your business brand. So that actual patterns are really good for high trust, if as long as it's recognizable by consumers, or you point, if it's actually abstract patterns that it doesn't really relate to bank accounts or even credit cards or those type of things. If it's not recognizable as a security pattern, that's fine. Try and link it on your website. So show consumers this pattern. Try not to show the pattern exactly as a flat form. Bend it around on a product, get reflections happening in your photograph so that people can't just copy it from your website and then apply it. So make it low quality on your website. Don't make it so crisp that they can just copy it from your website. So those patterns, again, can act as high security, but they're not competing against like things like NFC chips. So it is it's not a high security, so it'd be on the borderline around here, but it's still delighting consumers. So it's moving up a bit further. And you start to plot these things where it might be. Now, noting that all these strategies are always adding trust and always adding security, as we've looked through the research from day one. So these type of things will be plotted around this area. Ideally, you want all of them to really fall in here. That'd be great. But if you feel that some are over here, just try and find other ones that can be over this side or here as well, to make sure you're bundling correctly. So if I zoom back into this one here, I've got destructive packaging, which is really powerful. And you can work out what is suitable for your needs. If you're really concerned about excessive packaging, that's something that you need to work through. And perhaps destructive packaging, you need to look at something that is recyclable, or shrink wrap that is a hybrid polymer. So it's up to you, whatever you think is suitable for you. So these destructive packaging is still considered as a technology and security factor, and is a real high delighter. So these ones are really pushed up quite high. I mean, that's in my opinion. You can actually start to think, well, no, actually, as a business, I think that, you know, perhaps I might want to move it a bit further. It is a bit subjective where you place these, but in regards to you as your business, you need to make sure that you feel satisfied with these. This one here is, even though we think, oh, signatures and finger marks, fingerprints, we think, oh, well, that's so old school, right? No, old school is actually really good if you bundle it with other things as well. Please don't disregard something and think, oh, that's not actually going to do much. Actually, it's creating complexities. And for me to try and recreate that fingerprint without the artwork is going to be hell. So use embossing, signatures that are slightly smudged, batch numbers that have look like they're hand printed, even though you're going to print them in large batch numbers. Use handwriting, because that's a custom font. That's your handwriting. And embossing is really good as well, because especially complex embossing, not just the handwriting, embossing throughout the pattern is really fantastic as well. So again, I would still push this one a little bit higher. It's a delighter. It does have security, but it is still a little bit lower probably than the patterns. The fingerprint though, it's debatable. You could probably put them like that. They might be very similar. And this one here, holograms are excellent, but be mindful. If you buy the hologram pattern or packaging from off the shelf, like it's available to whoever, then counterfeiters can do exactly the same. Whereas if you design, like for instance, with the Magnum here, they've got their logo here, they've created some wording on the side, they've got displayed dots that get further and further apart over here, and it's all holographic laminate over the top of it all with certain particular areas highlighted. This is really highly complex to recreate. So that's something that the counterfeiter would have to work with people to try and replicate that. But if you have multiple layers of different things, they just start to go, look, I'll look at something else. So you can get laminates for boxes, which just gives a nice little sheen. I would highly recommend you still do things like embossing on boxes, or if you would want to work out what's suitable for you and how much you want to spend. But just saying, these are the available strategies, and this is something for you to consider. You need to make sure what you select works for you. All right, so I would suggest that this box one is still, it's not high security over here, but I would still say that these are still part of this. This is what I would believe. You might still go, I'd move these a bit further down here. It's lower security, but I would suggest they still do add a lot of value, especially when you bundle them all together. So that's up to you. All right, so I'm pretty satisfied with that myself, but you do what you need to do, copy that. And then finally, the last one is to have a look at planning. So let's take away these ones. So this is today and this is tomorrow, meaning that obviously as we go along in time, you might need to redo this again and again. And so if I put dates along here or any particular years, it quickly becomes irrelevant. You can actually design this yourself, but obviously your risk growth will increase as you grow as a business. As the consumer demand grows, counterfeiters will turn their heads towards you and see opportunity. So as you grow as a business, you need to increase the different types of counterfeiting that you have. And the best type of counterfeiting is dynamic, meaning that if you change your designs, then and you tell consumers you're changing, that type of refreshing, even if it's a yearly basis or 2 years, 3 years, whatever works for you, but it depends on the size that you are based on how much demand you have. So if you're a small business, perhaps you want to just look at simple techniques that you can change often. But then if you're a larger business, you can invest people and training and also technologies and a lot more designers into that process and educate them through this or whatever means that work for you. So looking at, I'll move these a bit closer so I can keep them on the screen for you. So here, all of these things are, I think, relevant. I think for an absolute fix for today, you could, I mean, this is my suggestion. I have designed for fast moving consumer goods for quite a long time, and I am recognizing that there are simple things. So you could just do a sticker or something like this. For instance, here, you could go ahead and purchase some basic stickers that are perhaps a hologram that you've purchased off the shelf. And the reason why I would suggest that at all is because it's just an initial thing using the stock that you already have. You've already got your stock. You can't change that packaging design. You've got that all ready to go. Perhaps you're about to ship it overseas or maybe within Australia. Within Australia, it's not so bad, but if you're going overseas, you want to have some level of counterfeiting. So I would look at some basic levels of stickers that you can just apply to products as you go along. That would be the very basic level. If you're going to start adding some extra things, so you might want to look at shrink wrapping. Shrink wrapping over the top of your packaging. Maybe that's a bit further along the path. But, you know, for instance, even your back to this one here. Back to this one here. Even just a box that you're going to put your honey jar inside, and then you put a sticker over the top, or you create that box so it's glued down on both ends, and consumers have to rip that box to get that toothpaste out, get that honey out jar. So making it destructive. And I know that at the moment, this is just an example of holograms, but if you're looking at destructive packaging, so when I say this, please don't be limited by the image. The image here, destructive packaging is really powerful. So if you think about it as a box or even a sticker over the top of your lid, tamper evidence seals around your lid, that's definitely a first step. Anything destructive, any like simple stickers is the first layer. And if you can invest in much more advanced things like this shrink wrap over the top, perhaps that's something for a little bit longer down the track, maybe phase 2. And packaging change design is something you might want to be considering along here. Is there any questions so far? If anyone would like to jump in and ask a question, you're welcome to. But this is a plan I would suggest. And further on down the track, perhaps I would jump back. Sorry, jump back into here. I know that I've just looked at things, but I would want to have QR codes built in as soon as possible, or a mode of tracking, but that would be for tomorrow. And then, you know, you can look through these as well and keep pulling those across. Embossing, unusual shape packaging, depends on your actual formats as well, what's interesting for you. But this would be even a low cost product, and as it grows, you would start to still consider things like QR codes or whatever. Down the track for a premium product, you can still use similar things, but you need to start stepping it up. You need to really think about, if I'm going to add this type of layer of holographics to my packaging, that might come later. I won't do that today, but I definitely want to work towards that. And I want to be putting that again here and understanding what kind of more layers I can be doing with holograms. Holograms are really effective against counterfeiting. And obviously if you create an image that is produced as a hologram, and it's actually quite cost effective. There's many suppliers out there. You work with them, with their designers, and they create something for you, but then that's your design, and it's recognizable for your company. It creates brand, and it's something that's really quite tricky to produce because you have to create mirrors and a 3D image and go through the whole process of creating hologram. So that gives you an understanding, but as you can see, you don't have to be limited to the same design just in one spot. You can actually duplicate things twice. This would be a low-key destructive packaging level, but then in phase 2, I definitely want to do that again, but also go to a much more advanced. And then again, I would want to be going again in my more advanced levels. What else could I think about? So this is something that's over to you. You need to start thinking how I'm going to build a plan and have fun with it. You know, build something that is meaningful for you, that is representative of your company. Obviously, I'd start to look later on down the track at, you know, for instance, perhaps RFID chips for your tertiary packaging, so that obviously you want to be able to measure, be able to scan with devices throughout the supply chain. You probably have that already in place, but make sure you have those things once you're scaling up as a business. And NFC chips, you can get them as stickers and a variety of things, but sorry, here we are. NFC chips would be wanting to be built in later on down the track and working towards those things. There's lots of different suppliers for NFC chips that are offering printed stickers and other things. Stickers, be mindful, you just want to make sure that you can't get them off, or they are perforated in a way, so if you try to get them off or steam them off, they will actually rip or destroy. So make sure you, if you're doing an NFC chip that's a sticker, be mindful that counterfeiters will try and lift that off. Other companies use Tetra Paks with embedded NFC chips. It's available. Obviously, honey might not come in a Tetra Pak, but you can also still embed it into labels as well. So long story short, that gives you an example of that. But for a premium product, I could still use that same packaging plan, but I just need to think about a much more higher level of packaging. So for instance, if I want to look at investments with a premium, I probably, with consumers, they would actually download an app for a very premium product. They want to make sure it's authentic. And so you might want to start working towards having a verification app, not just a QR code that takes you to a website. Verification apps, there's lots of them. Q1, Office Ones, they partner with Authenticated. There's MaxQ, and there's lots. You just search different apps. I will also provide a number of service suppliers, a list of those later on, and that's something you could consider as well. But just have a look through and start to see what things you would like to invest in and what is really important. But do think that this resource is available, open source. You'll have a link to this, so I don't expect you to do that today, but I'll give that to you so you can start to put together, have a play, get used to it yourself, and then you can actually walk your company through this. And that's what I want to do. I want to empower Australian businesses to be able to use these resources, open source, to be able to access these trump cards. And as I expand these trump cards, as I come across new solutions, I'll keep creating these and adding them to this site, which you can then tap into. So there's, if you want physical cards, then I do offer those. you don't have to purchase them at all. But if you prefer more of a physical thing, you can purchase those on the testimona.org website. But that's not necessary. You're welcome to just use the open source platform on Miro. But in summary, I think that's what we're going to do now is just, I'll take any questions if there's any left. But if not, then I will send out through Liz a bit of the access to this site that you can share with your business. It's open source, so once I send you that link, you can have that. I'll send you the link to Testimona website, which you can keep in contact. And if there's any new technologies that are available, you can sign up for alerts and that can be sent to you. And just be mindful of those other sites I showed you as well. There is a whole plethora of information available to you. There's lots of businesses that are actually giving out case studies of what they're doing. And what's really important is just keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your industry. Honey is the third most counterfeited product in the world. It's easy to do, it's easy to counterfeit, and it's a premium product, especially from Australia. So I encourage you to make sure you build these strategies into your business plans. You keep dynamic. Don't just think that one solution will fix it. You need to keep moving because counterfeiters are always trying to catch up. So if you keep dynamic, then they will start to go, we'll look for someone else that's easier. And unfortunately, that's just another tactic to play. But yeah, if there's any questions, I'll take them now. But otherwise, I'm going to let you have a bit of an early mark. Thank you. So that's it. And there's my contact details if you want to reach me directly. Otherwise, you can go to testimona.org and you can reach me through that as well.